Today, we will share the story of Michelangelo, the artist who wrestled with God through suffering. In the early morning light, the sky over Florence begins to glow, the city of marble, the heart of the Renaissance. There, a young boy stands before a block of white stone. His name is Michelangelo di Lodovico Buonarroti Simoni. People would later call him the human at God's fingertips. The birth of an uneasy genius. In 1475, in the small Tuscan village of Caprese, a second son was born to a noble family. From the start, his life was destined to challenge the world. His father, a fallen noble, did not want his son to become an artist. "A sculptor or a painter is only a craftsman," he would often say. But Michelangelo could already see something inside the stone. From a young age, he drew on walls and spent time touching and shaping marble. At around 13, he joined the workshop of the famous Florentine painter, Ghirlandaio. There, he learned about lines, colors, and the balance of the human body. But he soon realized, "I will become a man who carves stone rather than paints pictures." The philosopher boy in the Medici court Florence was alive with the fires of the Renaissance. Scholarship, art, faith, and science collided, opening the doors to a new world. Young Michelangelo caught the eye of Lorenzo de' Medici, the great patron of the arts, a philosopher and a politician. Lorenzo recognized his talent and invited him to the court. There, he dined with philosophers and learned the ideas of Plato. Perfect beauty exists in the world of God. This phrase would guide Michelangelo for his entire life. He came to believe that sculpting was not just making a form, but freeing the human within the stone. "I see the human in the marble. I simply remove the excess stone that surrounds him." David, freeing the human soul. In 1499, the Florence Cathedral had a massive block of marble, 5 meters tall, 6 tons heavy. Many sculptors had tried and failed. Michelangelo said, "David is inside that stone." In a workshop lit by a single beam of sunlight, he wrestled with the marble for 3 years. His fingertips cracked, his body bent, but he never stopped. In 1504, the world held its breath. David, a boy not yet in battle, his brow tense, a small stone trembling in his hand, and his eyes full of courage, even in fear. His gaze was not toward God, but toward himself. The people of Florence exclaimed, "This is a hymn to humanity." The battle with God above, Sistine Chapel ceiling. In 1508, Pope Julius II summoned him. "Come to Rome. Paint the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel." Michelangelo was angry. "I am a sculptor, not a painter." But he could not refuse. Under the ceiling, more than 500 square meters, he lay across scaffolding and began to paint the heavens with his whole body. For 4 years, he lived looking up. Paint dripped into his eyes, his body ached, his fingers stiffened, but he kept working. The most famous scene, the creation of Adam, shows God reaching out to touch Adam. Their fingers nearly meet, and a spark of life flows through the air. That hand is not just God's, but also Michelangelo's hand, reaching to create like God. He later said, "I painted the ceiling and etched my soul into the wall." A lonely man, Michelangelo. He was not a refined scholar like Leonardo, nor social like Raphael. He was lonely. He often clashed with the world, even with family and patrons. He avoided love and never married. He slept with stone instead of friends. In his diary, he wrote, "My heart is cold as marble. Only my fingertips are alive." His art was born from suffering, not love. For him, art was not labor, but atonement. Back to the Sistine, the Last Judgment. As he aged, Rome called him again. Pope Paul III commanded, "Paint the Last Judgment behind the altar." This time there was no heaven, no hope. Humans trembled before judgment. Angels and sinners twisted together, saints and fallen people contorted in fear. One figure peels his own skin. It is Michelangelo himself, the final confession of a genius seeking perfection. The final sculpture, Rondinini Pietà. In his last years, he returned to marble. His final work, the Rondinini Pietà, was unfinished, form soft, proportions imperfect, but his hands continued to create. If the youthful Pietà was perfect beauty, this final work was fragile, pure love, and the collapse of the soul. Tales around Michelangelo. He had a rough temperament and hated interference. Sometimes he even destroyed his own sculptures. "This is not the human I wanted," he said, and years of work were gone. His rivalry with Raphael was famous. Raphael was favored by the Pope, but Michelangelo worked alone, hanging from scaffolding. People called him the lonely giant. Scholars say he did not fight other artists. He fought with God. The final day, returning to God, in 1564, in Rome, an old Michelangelo lay in bed, unfinished marble at his side. He never let go of the chisel. He whispered, "I saw the face of God as I carved the stone." His art still watches us from the Sistine ceiling and the squares of Florence. If Leonardo explored human intellect, Michelangelo sculpted the human soul, and he whispers to us, "God created humans. I created God within humans.